Hello again. This is the course of Information System Development, and today in this video we are going to learn one new concept about form processing, and I will give you also a Django example. But before we discuss the example in this video, I would like to teach you one basic concept about how to create a sequence diagram. Okay, so in the first slide, we have the agenda. So we are going to learn the sequence diagram. And in the next videos, we will learn about the search functions and how can we do filters with additional packages in the Django. So yeah, as I mentioned to you, we will learn about the sequence diagram and search functions. We will learn about the basic filter functions. We will learn about the method pause and get, and how can we do the filterings with the Django filter. So it means we are going to use one package in the Django. There's a Django filter, but yeah, we will discuss it later. So before we deal with the example, I would like to teach you the importance of the sequence diagram. In the previous slide, in the previous video, we already learned about the system architecture. Okay, in the system architecture, you need to understand the components in your system, and then you try to design the flow on the systems. So you design who is the user, and then how can we have the browser, and then how can we connect to the model, and then yeah, we have the concept about the MVD. The whole concept MVD is the basic to design the system architectures. But now we are trying to create the sequence diagram. So we are going to design the flow. Okay, so let's see the definition first. What is sequence diagram? So a sequence diagram shows object interactions arranged in time sequence. So it means we know that after you do A, then you will do B. After you do B, and then you will do C. So that kind of sequence, there should be a time. So you cannot modify your name if you don't register your name. Yeah. So you cannot delete your name if you do not register your name. Yeah, and you cannot see the list of the products if you do not log into the page. So the sequence diagram will determine which page is coming first and which page is coming next. It depicts the object and classes involved in the scenario and the sequence of messages exchanged between the objects needed to carry out the functionality of the scenario. So later when you create your information system, you need to know the messages. Okay, so we are trying to design the sequence of messages, a sequence of the data, or sequence of the informations between the objects. And yeah, we have the scenario. Of course, yeah, you know the scenario. Like say you go to the ATM, so you need to put the card into the ATM machine. And after you put the card, then there will be a menu, and they will ask you what is your PIN number. So the menu knows about that particular task because you already insert your card. Okay, so that kind of sequence of the messages between the objects should be designed. So these diagrams are widely used by businessmen and software developers to document and understand the requirements for new and existing system. So if you understand the sequence diagrams, it is one of the important tools So if you are in the business sector, you can try to figure out how the flow or the supply chain, for example. If you are in the information system, then you need to know how can the document flow from one object or one person to another person, from one department to another department. Okay? So that's why we need to understand a little bit about the sequence diagram. And in this chapter, I would like to discuss about the sequence diagram. We have several components in the sequence diagram. So the basic components are actors and lifelines. What is actor and what is lifeline? An actor, we call it the UML diagram. Okay, so maybe I need to differentiate this one. The UML diagram means the unified modified language. Okay? And it represents a type of rule where it interacts with the system and its object. So when we have this UML diagram, we need to have at least one actor. So who is the actor? For example, the user. Okay, so the user is one of the actor, or maybe you can say like the administrator. Okay, so the administrator is the actor. So those kind of diagram will need at least one actor. Okay, so you can design with several actors, of course, but at least one actor should be in the diagram. And there's also another concept about the diagram. We call it the lifeline. So the lifeline means it is an element that depicts an individual participant in a sequence diagram. It means if you have your sequence diagram, you need to have object or something which is related to the participant. So basically, each instance in the sequence diagram is represented by a lifeline. So we call this is an instance. Okay? So we call this is one instance, and you can also design this one as a class. Okay? So later I will also show you one example about the class diagram. And if you already know about the class diagram, you can convert the class diagram into the sequence diagram. I do not want to return back to the class diagram. I hope that you already understand the class diagram from the course of computer programming, and you also learn a little concept about the class diagram in the data structure. Okay, we call it a lifeline because the lifeline is something indicated with this dash line. Okay, so this dash line indicate it is the lifeline, and this lifeline will have a kind of length. Okay, so the length indicates that a particular message or a particular arrow will go to this instance or will go to this object. There is another concept, we call it the comment. Okay. I guess if you learn the computer programming, you know the comment. Okay. Comment is a rectangle with a folded over. Okay, this is a rectangle and a folded over. Okay, and the comment can be linked to related object with dash line. So you can just put like this one. Okay, if you want to like explain this class, then you can just put the dash line into the particular object. So what is the difference between a lifeline and an actor? A lifeline always portrays an object internal to the system, whereas actors are used to depict objects external to the system. Okay, so if you have the system, let's say, this is one example I took from one website. Okay, if the users would like to go to the theater machine, okay, so the user will insert a card, okay, and after the user insert the card, he will select the date. Okay, and after the user insert the card and select the date, it will return a message opposite to the user, and then the user will submit the order, and then the submit order will go to the server, so it will check whether the seat is still available or not, And after we success to access the server, then the order confirm and it will give the message to the user back. So the order has been confirmed. Okay? So it means we can see that this is the lifeline of the user, and this is the lifeline of the theater, and this is the lifeline of the server. So whenever we have this one, so it is the sequence. The sequence is from the top to the bottom. Okay. So this is the first, and then this is the next, and we know that this is the next, okay? And then this is the next, and then this is the next. Okay? So some diagram mention that the line will be different between the sending and receive. So if a user send a message, then it is a solid line. If the object or something related with this, like the theater, if this object or this instance sending back the message, then it uses dash line. Okay. Now we need to understand the concept about messages. So what is messages? So communication between objects is depicted using messages. The messages appear in a sequential order of the lifeline. So if you have the lifeline here, yeah, it is the first is this one, and then next is this one, and then the next is this one, and then the next is this one, and then the next we have 5, and then the next we have 6. So it should be in the sequence from the top to the bottom. Okay. We represent messages using arrows, and lifelines and messages form the core of the sequence diagram. Okay. So if you check this one, maybe it's a little bit different. Okay, you can see this one as the dash line. Okay, but this one is the solid line. But yeah, we want to know something more later about the messages. So in this case, like the customer and bank. Okay, the customer send a message to the bank. So when bank receive a particular message, so it process the message. Okay, so this mean the bank will process the message for a particular time. After some particular time, then maybe the customer again send an asynchronous message. After the customer send an asynchronous message, the bank would like to connect to the insurance agent, for example. So the participant creation message has been created. So it means the bank wants to know whether the person or the customer is reliable or not. Then bank will connect to the insurance agent. After the insurance agent is connected, yeah, so the bank also try to get some data, and for example, yeah, the customer request to delete data, then yeah, we can also do the deletion of the messages, and then the customer can get the message by himself. Okay, so it is like the repetition. For example, you want to access an ATM, and you want to know the amount of the balance of your money in your bank account. Then you can just press the current uh, transaction or the current inquiry of your cash. Then yeah, it will give you the self message or reply message. Okay, so this kind of loop is also available in the sequence diagram, or it can also be in a kind of message. So we will learn some message concepts. Okay, there are several kind of concepts. Yeah, that the name can be a bit different, or yeah, somehow similar to the other literatures, but I would like to use these concepts: synchronous message, asynchronous message, written message, and we have also the participant creation message, participant destruction message, and reflexive message. So we will learn the 6. What is asynchronous message? So based on the definition, a synchronous message is used when the sender waits for the receiver to process the message and return before carrying on with another message. Okay, so usually the symbol is just a solid line like this one with the solid arrowhead. Okay, so this solid arrowhead indicates this is a synchronous message. So for example, you go to the teller, the bank teller, then you want to wait until the teller give you some information. Yeah, then you know the automated teller machine is also doing the same way. So when you go to the ATM and then you insert your card, then the ATM will do something according to your request. So that kind of message is regarded as synchronous message. The next is about asynchronous message. What is asynchronous message? In the asynchronous message is used when the message caller does not wait for the receiver to process the message. So the key point is does not wait. Okay, and return before sending other messages to other objects within the system. So the arrowhead used to show this type of message is a line arrow like shown example. So like this one, if it is a message, a synchronous message, you can use with the solid arrowhead. But if it is an asynchronous message, then you just put an arrow. Okay, so this message means you do not wait for the receiver to process the message. So it is like just informing, okay, just information. So you don't need to wait for the processing. For example, if you want to change your bank book, okay, once you want to change bank book, the teller should get the permission or should get the confirmation from the manager. Yeah, so in that case, yeah, you are the sender should wait. Then it is a synchronous message. But after, for example, every month you receive a message from the bank about how much money that you already spent in a month, then yeah, it is an asynchronous message because you do not wait the receiver to process the message. Yeah. So this kind of messages is important, especially when you're dealing with this kind of information system, whether you want to use the synchronous message or asynchronous message. There's another kind of message, we call it the return message. Okay, what is return message? So once you send a message, you need to get the return message. You need to get the return information. So we have the message receiver is done processing the message and is returning the control over the message caller. Return messages are optional notation pieces. For an activation bar that is triggered by a synchronous message always implies a return message. So if you can see this one, object 1 and object 2, once the object 1 send a message, then there is a particular time. Yeah, the particular time here, it will return a message to this object. So yeah, it means like, yeah, you want to get the value and you want to get some kind of feedback, then yeah, you can use like this one. Usually people will use the dash line. Okay, so this dash line is to indicate the reply or the return message. There is another concept about the message in the sequence diagram. We call it participation creation message. The participant creation message. What is participant creation message? So objects do not necessarily live for the entire duration of the sequence of the events. Objects or participants can be created according to the message that being sent. Let's say I have a message from object 1 to object 2, but after I doing something, then I create some kind of object. Okay, for example, if I if I go to ATM, okay, I give my credit card, or I give card to the ATM, and then after I insert my card to the ATM, I will like to create a kind of transaction. So I want to transfer my money to another account, or I want to pay some kind of credit card or expenses with regard to the household, for example. So I would like to give a message to the object two, which is the ATM, and then after I create the object in the ATM, I would like to create one more instance with regard to the transfer. I want to create another instance with regard to the payment to the expenses of the household. So those kind of thing, yeah, it means I do not only do with the ATM, but I also do with other kind of objects, payment, transfer, or yeah, other things that is related to the ATM. So if the created participant does something immediately after its creation, you should add an activation POC right below the participation POC. So yeah, it depends. Okay, if you are doing something with a new object, or if you're something with one kind of instance, or if you're doing something with one class, then you need to create something this one. Or if you don't think that it is necessary, maybe you need only to like create another box here. So it means you create another instance from the object too. Okay, so that can be possible. So there's also another concept about the participant destruction message. The participant destruction message means I just want to delete. Okay, participants when no longer needed can also be deleted from a sequence diagram. So we can just put X. So the meaning of X here is to delete, or yeah, to destroy. So once you already create a message, and then once you already create the object, and then yeah, after you finish everything, then you want to destroy. Let's say after you transfer money to a particular recipient, and then yeah, you do not want to get the receipt, you do not want to get the invoice, so you just press no for the receipt. Yeah, it will destroy the information that you see on the screen, and then yeah, it disappear. So the next person who use the ATM will not see what you were doing before. So that kind of thing, yeah, you need to also show in your sequence diagram. There's also another message, we call it reflexive message. So when an object sends a message to itself, it is called a reflexive message. So it is indicated with a message arrow that starts and ends at the same lifeline as shown in the example below. Okay, so if the object will give a message to its object. Okay, what does it mean? So yeah, usually yeah, this kind of object like a computer, yeah. So you know, in the computer there's also one kind of object that will refer to the reflexive. If you're doing something, okay, so the computer may know is how to manage the memory. So the computer will try to adopt the memory allocation problem. We call it the memory allocation problem. So once you open one software and then you open another software, so the computer will like give their own message to know for which software should be open first, which software should be open next. And then if you're doing with the PPT, then it will consume such kind of memory. If you use with the Microsoft Word, it will consume such kind of memory. So those kind of messages, it will be a reflexive message because they need to allocate more memories to another software. So yeah, this kind of reflexive message can be one of the example for the sequence diagram. This is one example. If you already understand the class diagram, you know how to create the class with the paradigm of object oriented, then you can easily make the sequence diagram. For example, yeah, I have an ADM. Okay, so this ADM is a class, and then we have two data members, ID and cache. So those are the methods. Okay, and then we have card reader, which is a class, and then we have three methods. We have session, which is also a class, and then we have two methods. Okay, so this is with regard to the object cache, and this is with regard to the object card. Okay. Now, if I want to think about the sequence diagram, so I can say that, yeah, this class, the card reader, session, and ATM, then those can be the object. Okay, so we have card reader, ATM, and session. So in this case, card reader, there is no instance. So in ATM, there is one instance, and S is the session. So the starting point is from the card reader. The card reader will read a card when the card is inserted. Okay, so it is the message. So the message is card inserted. You can see here there is a message, or there is a method card inserted, and then it will be created. So the session will be created, and then when the ATM perform a session here, it returns read card. Okay, so where is the perform session? Okay, this is the perform session. And then after the perform session has been invoked, so the message read card, okay, this one is read card, will appear. Okay, and then yeah, it will give the message to the card reader. Now the system or the ATM is reading the card. After it shows the card here, then we want to check the card. Okay, the A card means this is the object. Okay, so this is the object, because if it is not the relevant object, then it will not give the information. Because it is a relevant object, or this is the relevant card, then there is a new instance or A card. Okay, there's a new instance A card, and it goes to the session. Now after the session or the ATM machine know that it is the correct card. Okay, so if you go to the Uri Bank, then you will, the ATM Uri Bank will check whether this is the correct card for Uri Bank or not. If it is not the debit card, or if it is not the card for Uri Bank, they will give you some kind of messages. Okay, so after the session read the card, now it will read the pin. Okay, so read the pin. Yeah, there is also a method here, and then it will give message to the card reader. So it means it will give message to the user, and then the user will need to give pin, and then yeah, the pin will access to the session, so you can go to the next stage. Yeah. So this kind of crash diagram can be automatically converted to the sequence diagram. So if you have these three objects, then you can easily figure out what is the message. The message is the method itself. So you already learned the user registration management before, and you already did your mid exam, and the mid exam is related with the product management. And this example is just based on the user registration or user management. You have the user registration, user login, user list, user delete, and user modify. And this line, yeah, represent the synchronous message, and then this is the reply. So I do not distinguish between the dash line and the solid line, but yeah, this kind of line indicates the process. So first it goes here, and then it will give the registration status. After you register, then you can just log in to the login page. If the login is valid, then you can go to the welcome page. Okay? If it is false, then if your user ID is not validated, so it will go to error. So maybe the ID is not the same, or the password is wrong, and then yeah, you will give the information login error to the user. And then if uh, the the ID and the password is correct, then it will go to the welcome page, And in the welcome page, we'll check if the role is admin, then you can show the user list. Okay? And then if you can see the user list, you can have the roles to delete the user ID, or you have the roles to modify the user ID. But if you are not the admin, then you will just reach this welcome page, and then yeah, you maybe there's another function. Okay, so I just limit until this part, and then it will just show the result to the user. The same with the user list, you can have the delete, you can have the modify, and after you delete, there will be a feedback. After you modify, there will be a feedback, and then it will give the response to the user. This is another example. Yeah, you have the list member, add members, okay, the update members. You know, at the time we learn about the CRUD. Yeah? So this is also the sequence diagram of the CRUD. So in this sequence diagram, the first the user will access the list member. After the user access the list member, yeah, you can check. For example, you want to add member. So the add member will be verified, and after it is verified, if the validation is true, then it will return to the list member page. Okay. If the verification is false, then it will go back to the add member function. The same with the other button, for example, modify and deletion. Okay, so you know in the table that we created before in the example, so we have the button for modify, we have the button for deletion, and we have the button for add member. Oh, okay, I think I need to put this on this one. Okay, so we have the addition and modify and deletion. So for each operation, like the modify, it will update the member, and then after you do the updating the member, you will check the validation will give back to the list member. So if it is wrong, okay, if it is false, then it will go back to the update member. The same with the deletion will check the delete confirm. If it is confirmed, then yeah, we will just go back to deletion. If it is not confirmed or cancelled, we will go back to the update member. So those kind of sequence is important for the information system design, because before you do the code, if you do not design this kind of sequence, then you will always modify. You will always enhance your code, and then you will never finish to write your code. So when you don't have any design, it will ruin your code. So that's why in the proposal, I recommend you to make the system architecture and also the sequence diagram. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have time to explain about the sequence diagram before. Now you know about the sequence diagram, and I hope that you can apply something for your proposal about the sequence diagram that you already learned in this video. Okay, I think that's all for this video. I will continue with the other videos for the next section. Thank you very much for listening.